Before we begin, please take a look at your cell phones and make sure that they're turned off or in the silent mode. Following the service here in the synagogue, we'll be headed to Shalom Memorial Park in Arlington Heights. The time in procession is approximately 35 minutes. If you will be coming with us, please head to the south parking lot, where we'll be lining up the procession behind the hearse and immediate family members, followed by extended family and friends. We'll get you a sticker and a flag. Please keep your brights and your flashing hazards on at all times in procession, and keep a close but safe distance to the car in front of you. Please be aware of your surroundings as we head to the cemetery. Following the interment, the family will be headed back to the Schubert residence at 3901 Carousel Drive in Northbrook. They'll be there receiving condolences until 8 p.m. this evening, as well as Tuesday from 4 to 8. This information, as well as memorial contributions, are on the folder you received when you entered. There are also prayers to be read at the cemetery, if you can bring the folder with you. The following individuals have been asked to serve as pallbearers, and we will ask for your assistance at the end of the service: Paul Fishman, Robert Fishman, Janet Terry, Kevin Terry, Deanna Goldberg, Jay Goldberg, Margaret Halprin, and Ben Lewis. We'll call you up at the end of the service, and we thank you in advance. It's my honor to introduce the clergy officiating our service: Rabbi Paul Cohn, Rabbi Rachel Heaps, and Cantor Amy Sussman.
There is a ritual that we perform at the beginning of funeral service. The ritual itself is called kriya. It's a Hebrew word that literally means a tearing. It comes to us from the Bible, when our ancestor Jacob was told by his children that his youngest son Joseph had been killed. He tore the cloak that he was wearing. It was a sign of grief, of sadness, but also a sign of confusion and even the anger that we feel when someone we love is taken from our midst. The kriya ribbon which we use today also serves as an outward sign to those that we will meet in the coming days that indeed there has been a tear in the fabric of our lives. So without having to say a word, people will see the ribbon and know how to respond accordingly.
Shiviti Adonai, lenegdi tamid, kimimini balemot. Lachen samach libi, vayagel kevodi, af besari yishkon lavetach. Ki lo ta'azov nafshi lishal lo titein chasid chalerot shachot torieni orachayim. Sova simachot et panecha ne'imod b'mincha netzach. Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid ki mimini balemot.
Ernie, Karen, Jeff, all of us, family and friends, share in your grief. Linda touched us all in so many beautiful, warm, and caring ways. We all feel the hole that her passing has left in our world. In this moment, the words of the poet speak to us. Mourning is the price we pay for having the courage to love others. Even in grief, we know that the wonder of human life is too complex and too magnificent to be memorialized in endless pain. The gifts of spirit that Linda gave us cannot be measured or weighed, nor can they be lost or even tarnished by time. Even in our darkest hours, we know that some of her light and her warmth will always be with us, bringing comfort and courage, and in the fullness of time, healing and peace. In this moment, we acknowledge the passing of our beloved Linda. Our friends grieve in their darkened world. In their silence, there is lamentation. In their tears, there is loneliness. Lost in their sorrow, may they find the presence of loving friends. Hear them, O God, and be with them. For Linda's love that united us in life and which death cannot sever. For her companionship that we shared along life's path and which continues through the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of her heart and mind that brought us joy and happiness and is now a precious remembrance. For all these and more, we give our thanks to God. In this time of grief, we listen to the voice of our sacred scriptures that brings us the ever-new message of God's nearness. It teaches us of our kinship with the divine, in light as in darkness, in joy as in sorrow, in life as in death. Psalm 23. The Shepherd's Psalm.
Adonai roi lo echsar bino deshe yarbitzeni ame menuchot ame menuchot yanaleni nafshi shovev yishovev yancheni v'magle tzedek yancheni v'magle tzedek leman shemo gam ki lech b'getz hamavet lo hirara ki ata imadi shivtecha umishantecha hema yenachamuni taroch lefanai shulchan neged zorirai dishanta vashem eroshi kosi revaya ach tov chesed yidifuni koyimei chayai vishavti biveit Adonai leorech yamim. Adonai roi lo echsor. Adonai roi lo echsor.
On the inside of our pamphlets, we read the translation of Psalm 23 together. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
For many, as we gather around the Sabbath table on Friday evening, there are blessings that are recited, blessings over the candles, welcoming Shabbat, welcoming the Sabbath, the blessing over the wine, celebrating the joy that this day brings, and the motzi, the blessing over the challah, the special loaf of bread baked in honor of Shabbat and extending to the meal itself. And there are words of blessing that are given to each person sitting around the table, parents for their children, and husbands and wives for one another. And the words that were chosen for a husband to bestow, to bless his wife with, come from the book of Proverbs, from chapter 31. And this particular section is known by the name, A Woman of Valor. And these words speak beautifully and eloquently of Linda's life. A woman of valor who can find, she is more precious than fine pearls. Her husband trusts in her, and so he lacks nothing. She does him good, never harm, all the days of her life. She perceives that her labor is rewarding, and her candle burns on into the night. She reaches out to those in need and extends her hands to the poor. She is clothed in strength and dignity, and she faces the future cheerfully. She speaks with wisdom. The law of kindness is on her lips. Her children rise up and bless her. Her husband sings her praises. Many daughters have done valiantly, but you excel them all. In his sorrow, Job cried out, Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai mevorach. God has given and God has taken away. Blessed be the name of God. An ancient people, we are well acquainted with grief and the valley of shadows. Death and sorrow are not strangers to us, yet the centuries have taught us that a good name endures beyond the grave and that there is strength in faith. With Job, we say, Adonai natan, God, you have given. You gave us a loved one, Linda Schubert, who will not be forgotten. For all that was good and enduring in her life, we offer the deepest thanks of our hearts. Adonai lakach, God, you have taken away. We pray for the strength to turn our broken hearts into an altar of trust before which we acknowledge your sovereignty and your love. as we now say, He Shem Adonai Mevorach, blessed be the name of God, now and forever. Amen. I invite you to take these next few moments to call forward the cherished memories that you have of Linda's life and how her love touched each of our hearts in this moment of silent reflection.
Yihul ratzon imre fi. Yihul ratzon imre fi. Vegyon libi lefanecha. Adonai tzuri v'goali. Oh, may the words of my mouth, the meditations of my heart be acceptable before thee, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. O say shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael, v'imeru, amen.
We know that words that come from the heart go straight to the heart. As we continue our tribute of love to Linda's life, we do so with the words of her family. We'll first hear from her husband, Ernie, and then her son, Jeff.
I'd like to say I'm really happy to see all you folks, but I'm just grateful that you came. It's been a tough few days. I don't know if I can get through this. I could talk about Linda for hours, but I'm going to try and keep it to about 5 minutes, if you can wait 5 minutes. When we first knew we were going to do it, I decided to do it in this room because this just seemed like it was a place that we'd been for 44 years. We came here for Friday night services, we came here for concerts, programs. We always felt guilty for not coming more. But there's something interesting going on, or if it was just the fact that it was the time of year. We came here together. I don't know what it's going to be like coming in by myself. When I met her, it was 1957, and she was Linda Goldstein. And I had met her at a party. I got ahead of myself. This is her birthday. Today is her birthday. She'd be 82 today. I don't know how to use a microphone. I work with people who do that all the time. I don't know how to use it. 82 is a lot of years, but it's not enough, as it turns out. When I was a child, that seemed like forever. But right now, it's just not enough. I met her at a high school graduation party for my cousin Bob. She was 15 and I was 17. I didn't think of marrying her at the moment, but you have no idea how many people would say to me over the years, you gotta marry that girl. We dated for 7 years. Well, dating was what it was. It was dating. It was just dating. My cousin was interested in her too, but my real rival was dancing. Yeah, there are people who know that in this world. There wasn't anything about dancing she wasn't interested in, and she was so serious about it. I couldn't understand that when I was 17 years old. I couldn't understand it when we got married. It took a while to know just how serious she was and how good she was. She not only did she dance, but she taught dancing. And I think she loved teaching dancing more than she liked dancing. And she loved the little kids. She got tired of them after a while, but she just loved it. And Linda taught ballet for much of her life. And the ballet classes, really her whole life. Her most recent class was 4 weeks ago. She hired the teacher for the Arts Senior Center. When it came, they needed a new teacher a few years ago. They turned to her, and she found somebody that everybody loved, and this teacher loved her. She called me, and we had a very nice conversation. Linda's family lived in Skokie. They moved there in 1947. They were Jewish pioneers. Everybody thinks of Skokie as a place where a lot of Jews live, but when she moved there, it wasn't like that. It was a whole new thing. And I lived in Albany Park, and I'd have to run back and forth from Albany Park for 7 years. I ran from Albany Park to Skokie and back and forth, and I couldn't wait to see her. Absolutely couldn't wait to see her. Our first date was July 4th, 1957. Very quickly learned how special she was. I do not remember all these years later how many dates it took before it was true love, but it did not take very long. It was an electric situation, but a much different version. I could not wait to see her. On the weekends, that would normally be the best place, but she had so many activities. There were High School Musical. I mean, she was just in the middle of that. It was all she could do for a while. I couldn't see her, so I'd pick her up. She was teaching. She was teaching the younger kids. I'd pick her up after teaching. I had a car. She didn't. Wherever she was, I was there. That went on for 7 years until we were able to marry in 1963. Through high school and college, she met my friends and family. Everyone that she met fell in love with her too. My parents loved her immediately. My fraternity brothers at IIT, they were a little too interested in her. I had guys tell me that, look, if you ever lose interest, I'm interested. Everyone who I have talked to in the past few days told me how much they loved her, her wonderful smile. I never knew how to smile. She once sent me a birthday card. It was a picture of a dog. It was his words escape me. It says what kind of a dog it was. And the dog said, "I am smiling." And I had that over my desk for many years. A basset hound. Everybody knows what a basset hound looks like. I never had an idea how much people really knew her. People have been calling me, and I've been talking to them when I let her know what happened, and I realized just how much they really did know her and love her. Everybody that she worked for, and she had a number of jobs at the same time. She was teaching here and she was teaching there, and She left for the business world at one point, and just about everybody she worked for made a point of telling me when we had an opportunity to meet in various ways how much they depended on her, how much that everybody liked her, et cetera. It's just, I couldn't believe nobody liked me like that. When we married in 1963, she began teaching in the Chicago public schools, and she loved that. She had second graders and third graders. It was kind of an inner city school. It was part inner city, not part inner city. Is the picture up there? Okay. She loved those kids. Yeah, not a lot of people did. I mean, they were quite a, inclusive. The classroom was inclusive before anybody knew what inclusive was. That was a long time ago. Some of those kids were pretty poor, and they were poorly dressed. When she realized the boy was coming to class without a coat in the middle of winter, she found him a coat. She found shoes for kids who needed shoes, and a lot of other things like that. And her greatest frustration, and one reason she was happy to leave that school when she did, was a principal didn't care. A principal was a guy who just wanted to retire and get his pension. And so she depended on the older teachers, and the older teachers were great mentors. She was there for about 3 years. And then in 1966, we got pregnant. She left the school after Karen, and later Jeff was born. She took them all her love and all her soul. Linda, the school teacher, prepared our kids for grade school. She researched preschools like you've never heard of anybody researching preschools. She quizzed the teachers there, and she decided where they should go. There were plenty in the area to choose from, but there were only a few that she felt were worthwhile. She was a great reading teacher. When we looked for a house, she checked out the school district before we located. If we had located 3 blocks to the west, it would have been a different school. And actually, there was this one house that was split down the middle. They could join either one. I don't remember all the details, but we had a lot of laughs over that. But she made sure that we were in the school district that had a better reputation, that was building a brand new school, and that's where the kids went, and that's where they were prepared for high school. We had our differences. I mean, we didn't argue very much. We were pretty good that way. But I like to save things, which is part of my business. I mean, I'm a filmmaker, and you just never know when that cassette or that picture is going to be needed 10 years from now. It's all in my basement now. She did not care for that. So I like to save. She liked to throw things out. She thought cleaning the apartment was important and could not stand clutter. I did not notice clutter. In the first weeks of our marriage, in our apartment, the first opportunity to have our own place, I found it very strange that my girlfriend was cleaning. It just didn't add up. Yeah, it was a strange thing. I just wanted to be with her, and she was cleaning. She already knew that I could not dance. Now she was going to teach me how. That was probably the only failure in her teaching career. And somewhere in the 61 years that we were married, she gave up. I don't remember exactly when it was, but I know I remember being at a wedding, and I said, "You want to dance?" And she just, all right, you know. We tried. She tried. We love to travel. Is the Arc de Triomphe up there? You know, I started making films and was paid for it since I was 17 years old. And we worked on slides, just about every kind of thing you could do to get a picture up on the wall or on a screen or whatever. And I said, when I realized what we had to do, that I wasn't going to make a slideshow. I just couldn't bear it. But my daughter and her best friend's husband helped me, and we did it. And I hope you get to see all the pictures, because every single one of them is a part of her. And you might see a couple of pictures that she's not in. That's because she took those pictures, and I really love those pictures. And there's a whole lot more. I could keep you here for a long time. So we love to travel, and one of the things we like best is just walking through cities, strange places, and and even no matter how old we got, we loved to do that. We were supposed to go to China in 2020, April of 2020. Well, nobody went to China in April of 2020. So let me get back to my point here. So long before the internet, she would go to the library and research destinations. If we had decided to go to Spain, she knew everything about Spain. She knew the history. I remember her telling me about all she learned about Hawaii. I always thought Hawaii was just a place in the ocean that was warm and had palm trees, and it was just a lovely place, but she knew the history. It's very bad history, by the way. It's very sad. So she'd do the research, and then she had a favorite travel agent for a while. She would tell them where we wanted to go, what we were going to do, and we did it, and we just loved that. So she had no sense of direction. Whether it was in Skokie or well, Skokie not so much, but Highland Park or Lake Forest or Great Britain or anywhere in the world, if she told me to turn left, I knew to turn right. And the few times that I thought, well, she really sounded like she knew what she was talking about, it didn't work. The job she took when she left dancing was at Rand McNally. And she loved it, the map company, and she loved maps. I've got a picture somewhere up there. You see those pictures. We're looking at a map, but she couldn't follow a map. But I had a natural sense of direction, so we ended up getting home. When we going to Paris, she spent about a month trying to figure out the website for the Paris Opera Ballet. And it was in French at that time, but she managed to get tickets. And we saw a ballet, and she approved it. She said that they really were well trained, and that it was just glorious. And it was good. The music was fantastic. The hall was incredible, and it was a wonderful experience. We went to Spain. We saw 2 flamenco performances. One was horses. It was these beautiful white horses dancing. But it was dancing. We went to Israel with Rabbi Cohen and the group from the temple, and we were touring the Hebrew University in Tel Aviv. We were just going through the grounds. They were beautiful grounds, and she spotted a notice somewhere that there was a performance in the evening. So the rest of the group, I don't remember what they did, but we went to that performance, and the quote was, "Very well trained, but too modern for my taste." That's what she pronounced it. This is the end. If I can turn the page. Come on. There we go. Did I miss something here? My own notes I can't read. Oh, Ranger. Ranger is a small dog. She weighs 15 pounds. And there's a picture up there with Linda. Linda and Ranger had a very special relationship. It was Karen's dog, but Linda insisted on taking her out in the morning and feeding her in the morning, and Karen would take care of the rest of the day. But those two, they just loved each other. And I know she misses Linda. She wanders around the house looking for something. She goes into her office. She looks around, and she walks out. She goes to the front door and looks out. She's here somewhere this morning. I'm not exactly sure. She's right there in her case. And she's 16 years old. Wonderful dog. All right, about our house. I'm going to just read it. Our house, we built that house together while she was very pregnant with Jeff. She would drive out to the building site, which is about a 7-mile trip. It was way out at that time. When was that? Did I write it down here? Anyway, it was in the 60s when we built it. The first question that her parents had for that site was, do any Jews live there? And it turned out that we all found it. You know, we were there. There's a lot of other kinds of people out there now, but, you know, it was a very nice community. It's still a very nice community. Anyway, she would go out there with 2-year-old Karen to see what was happening and check in with me and let me know what was going on. One day she discovered a door was about a foot away from where the opening was, about a foot away where we expected it to be. And she had asked me when we saw the model, you know, we should have a closet right there. And I used to build things. I still build some things. And I said, sure, I can build a closet there. I never built a closet, but sure. And I eventually did. But if that door were in that position, we couldn't build a closet. So she went to the builder who sloughed it off, and she went back out there, and she found the carpenter. Now she's about, at that time, maybe 6, 7 months pregnant. And she talked that carpenter into changing the door while she watched. And I'm looking at my, anyway, there are people who know that that's a hard thing. So she very quickly learned that a very pregnant lady had a lot of power. But it was also her charm. You know, I mean, I have a feeling she may have been able to do it if she wasn't pregnant. You know, she just charmed everybody. I got to back up, something I forgot earlier. The ultimate story that I remember from her, when I was a senior in high school, I was the chairman of a committee to have a military, and I was in the ROTC, junior ROTC, and we were going to have a military dance, and the principal, who was a terrible person, was against it for what reason I don't remember. But I convinced them that we could do it. We had a dinner dance, and lo and behold, to my surprise, they put Linda and I at the same table with the principal. And I got to accent again that this guy he's just like the guys in any movie, except he wasn't incompetent. He was very competent, which made it worse. So who was sitting next to us at the table but the principal and his wife? And Linda's sitting next to the man's wife. She had a conversation with that woman for the length of the dinner, and that woman came to me at one point and said, "You have to marry that girl." And just about everybody she came in contact with, you know, it was just that sort of thing. Well, there you see the slide. Linda and little Karen in the driveway of our unfinished house. It wasn't good enough to know yet at that point in my career to get them closer to us. So you take my word, that's Linda and Karen. A few weeks later, 9 months pregnant, with a moving van in that driveway, she told me that she would never move again. And she made that stick. And that's why we're going back there to the Shiva, for the Shiva and no place else. People do Shivas in a lot of different places now, but that's where you're going to come. It looks a little different. I wish the monitor was over here. It looks a little different now. And the flowers are starting to bloom, and the grass is green, and the trees have leaves on them. And I wish it wasn't for this, that, you know, I'm just so happy that it looks that well when you come in. And that's it. So, Jeff, it's your turn.
Okay, I haven't spoken in this room since I guess I was 13 years old. So I hope I get the microphone right and the technology. Excuse me. Now, see if my teleprompter works for me. And we're good. Okay. Just a second. Yeah. So as we were preparing for all this, we needed some information that Mom would have, and I had to go look in her desk. And in a drawer on the right side, in probably one of the easiest places to reach, I find a folder labeled Karen and Jeff. And inside there's the typical stack of important papers that we're going to need to go through later, a DVD of a movie that Karen worked on, and digging further through, I find a research paper that I had co-authored. And I got to tell you, in case you don't know, most technical publications are so dry and mathematical, only a few people besides the authors can even read them, and fewer people do. But this was something unusual. This was a little more general interest. It was readable. It was something you could show your mother, so I did. And I'm not that surprised she kept it, and I'm not super surprised she kept it in a more personal place than tucked away on a shelf where my own copy is. But right behind that was a picture that I drew as a child in a plastic sleeve so the 50-year-old paper wouldn't get damaged. And I mean, I'm sure people hearing this, it's nice how she paired my earliest pretty good crayon drawing of an octopus with the best technical publication I ever did. But the part that struck me was I do things like that. And I always thought it was my own idea. Just one example, my doctoral diploma hangs on a wall next to my diploma from nursery school. To me, it just seemed right. It seemed like I just had to do that. Thought it was all my own idea. And all this time, I thought we didn't have that much in common. I mean, she was the ballet dancer. No one ever told me that I'm so graceful I must be the son of a dance professional. I wasn't around when she taught third grade, but they tell me she was really good at it. And sometimes at my work, I need to teach things to people in their 50s, but they don't pay attention and they won't hold still. So I didn't learn those things from Mom. I must have gotten some sense of aesthetics and creativity from her, and it must have helped growing up in a house with things like a telephone costume in the basement. Are you looking at the right picture? Okay, all right. Wasn't sure how I could describe that. And the fact that I even have a nursery school diploma means that at least one of my parents conspired to save it, frame it, and put it on the wall of my childhood bedroom. And all of these things made impressions on me that obviously I didn't realize at the time. So if there's a lesson in all of this, other than you should always read other people's private papers, I think it's that there's a lot more of my mom in me than I realized. And that's good to know.
Our tradition teaches us that though we are unable to determine the length of our life, God has given us the ability to determine its quality. It is up to us to make it a thing of beauty and value. And we can do this no matter how tragic or our individual circumstances may be. The great preacher, the Maggid of Dubno, taught this truth in a striking parable that some of you may be familiar with. A king once owned a large and beautiful pure diamond of which he was justly proud, for it had no equal anywhere. One day, the diamond accidentally sustained a deep scratch. The king called in the most skilled diamond cutters and offered them a great reward if they could remove the imperfection from his treasured jewel. But none could repair the blemish. The king was sorely distressed, and after some time, a gifted lapidary came to the king and promised to make the rare diamond even more beautiful than before the mishap. The king was impressed by his confidence and entrusted his precious stone to his care, and the man kept his word. With superb artistry, he engraved a lovely rosebud around the imperfection and used the scratch to make the stem. Linda was a true craftsperson of the Spirit. She used her creativity and optimism to take the blessings and the challenges of life and use these very scratches to etch a portrait of beauty and charm. As I thought about Linda's life and our approach to the festival of Shavuot from our observance of Passover, I thought also of our ancestor Miriam. Miriam had a clear sense of purpose and was a true leader. Miriam led with creativity, not waiting to be told what to do or even how to do it. Following her baby brother down the Nile, making sure he was safe, reuniting him with his mother, teaching the Israelites by the excellence of her example, ultimately leading the Israelites in dance to express the joy of redemption. We are also taught that Miriam's merit caused a well to follow the Israelites through their journey from Egypt to the Promised Land. Miriam was a creative spirit who was able to take the blessings and the challenges of life and create a thing of beauty with her own life. And so it was with Linda. Linda was born in Chicago, the youngest of two daughters to Herb and Hannah Goldstein, her older sister Carol, of blessed memory. Her parents, once they moved north, helped to found Niles Township Congregation, where I'm told Linda and Ernie were married. They met, as you know, when Linda was but 15 and Ernie was 17 at this graduation party for his cousin. And Ernie, as he told me, was immediately smitten, though it took a bit longer for Linda. She was impressed, though, with Ernie's parking abilities on their first date at the Esquire Theater. And during their dating, Ernie would drive, as you've heard, to attend Linda's shows and to be with her as much as he could, and he quipped that had he not been dating Linda, he might have been a much better student. After 7 years, they wed and shared 61 years of life and love. They would dance through life together, and they did everything together. I rarely saw one without the other. Linda was always on the lookout for dance programs of any style that they could attend together, and later they enjoyed, as you've heard, traveling together throughout the country and then the world. Linda was the planner and the organizer of these trips. We're told that people should learn in order to do, and do in order to teach. And Linda was a lifelong learner, studying dance, as you heard, up until just a few weeks ago. As Karen shared, it is a practice. Do in order to teach. Linda began ballet lessons at the age of 5, and by the age of 12, her teacher asked her to help teach the little ones at the dance studio. Later, she would become involved in the Cicchetti method of dance and was very committed to this, sometimes much to Ernie's chagrin, as she always seemed to be taking tests and going from one level to the next and going to retreats. She was very committed and became ultimately the historian of the group. Teaching would be her true calling after graduating from college. She began teaching, had to leave once she became pregnant, a very different time. It wasn't good for students to see their teacher pregnant, apparently. They might get the wrong idea. She loved becoming a mother, so proud of her children. She was generous with her attention, with her care, and as a teacher, as you heard, generous with her students as well. She was a woman of grace. She knew how to talk to people. Everyone liked Linda. When I first met her some 24 years ago, she impressed me immediately with her care and her warmth. She really wanted to know me and my family, and so many of you have had this exact experience. She made us feel welcomed and included. Karen shared that she saw her mom as a helper, and in her words, a carer. She said, you know how Mr. Rogers always said, look for the helpers? That was Mom. She volunteered at their school. She was the picture lady, bringing in pictures of great art and teaching the students about them. She brought Karen and Jeff to a lot of dance recitals, and they helped to sort through the costumes at home. She loved to attend Karen's shows, working in stage crew. Karen also shared with me that her friend Helen, whom she has known since her first day of college, and kind of an adopted daughter of Ernie and Linda, when she was just out of college, and Helen hadn't moved west yet, she got a temp job for one of Ernie's associates and lived with Linda and Ernie in the house in Northbrook and commuted with Ernie daily into the city. And she said this might have lasted for months or maybe weeks, but she can't remember even if she asked Linda, if she asked her mom, but knowing that, of course, the answer would be yes. That was Linda. She wanted to help. She wanted to be there for other people. Cooking was and feeding was one of her love languages. She enjoyed taking care of people, and she was really good at it. She made dinner nightly. Just one of the many ways that she ran the house and made Ernie's life easier and even more than he ever realized. They shared with me that she would make themed birthday cakes for those special days. She did this for so many people, taking care of them, and she was especially good with small children. As you heard, Linda loved Karen's dog, Ranger. She loved taking him on walks and giving her the opportunity to meet people in the neighborhood and talk to them. She had this second career, perhaps a second career, at Rand McNally. And it's no surprise that she started out as an assistant, as a secretary, and then became the right-hand person to the CEO. She enjoyed her work in permissions, where people would call to get permission to use the various maps that were published by the company. Making deals and negotiating were right up her alley, even with a carpenter to move the door a foot back to its original position where she wanted it to be. And so very generous, when the company was acquired, she actually saved another coworker's job by offering to retire once the companies merged. She touched so many lives. She had an impact on Karen and Jeff's friends as well. She made everyone feel special and important. Arnie shared how much his parents loved Linda, perhaps even more than they loved him. And that, as often is the case as we marry into families. Linda even became a caregiver to his mother when her health declined. And Cantor Zussman shared with me a beautiful picture at your mom's 95th birthday, I believe. It was hard to read. The candle was backwards, so I think it was 95. Linda was, as you know, a very special person. She taught kindness, acceptance. She was always non-judgmental. She was able to make the best out of every situation, to create a thing of beauty, and she could get along with everybody. She was the glue in the family and had the gift of being able to diffuse any tension, advocating, let it go. She would extend herself in any way she could for others, putting them first. Continue to live a life of modesty without ego. She created a life of grace and beauty through the blessings and the challenges. When her knees would not allow her to dance as she once did, she doubled down on teaching. May the memory of Linda Schubert, a devoted daughter, sister, wife, mother, aunt, cousin, and friend, always be for a blessing. And to this let us say, Amen. I invite you to rise as you are able for the memorial prayer, El Malei Rachamim.
El Malei Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, המצא מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה. אם קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע המזהירים. את נשמת רחל לאה בת יוסף הרש שהלכה לעולמה. בעל הרחמים יסתיריה בסתר כנפיו לעולמים. ויצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה ותנוח בשלום על משכבה ונאמר אמן.
On the back of our pamphlets, the translation of El Maleh Rachamim, we read together. O God, full of compassion, thou who dwellest on high, grant perfect rest beneath the sheltering wings of thy presence among the holy and pure who shine as the brightness of the firmament unto the soul of Linda Schubert, who has gone unto eternity. Lord of mercy, bring her under the cover of thy wings, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. Be thou her possession, and may her repose be peace. Amen.